Hey, what's up everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast, where we have quite a bit to catch up on in the world of ufology, because some major things have gone down, which I have been dying to discuss all of it, to point things out to you guys, because I do believe that a lot of things that Mr. Skyfall pointed out are starting to come true again. And we're going to go over all of that, plus the Congressional UFO hearing, which there were some major things there that I wanted to discuss the second I saw them, especially in regards to our friend Jeremy Corbell. And also, we're going to talk about Luis Elizondo, which, remember, I told you guys I do not trust this cat. I've said that since day one. If there is somebody earlier than me out there that has pointed him out as somebody to be suspicious of, tell me who that is, because I think I might have been the first person that said this guy is not on the level. You know, I mean, I'm sure there probably was somebody else who said it before me, but I'm telling you, there's a lot we're going to discuss about him. And then, like I said, we're going to discuss quite a bit of Skyfall here. But before we do, I just want to take a minute to have a quick conversation with you guys, or at least to speak upon my absence over the last two and a half weeks. First off, thank you all so much for the emails and the messages, asking if I'm okay and if all is well. Everything is absolutely okay. Everything is great. And to be honest, everything is better now than it's been in a very, very long time. But I've also received a couple of messages from people who get upset that there was such a lag in podcast episodes. And I understand that, and I actually appreciate it, because it shows me you care and you like the podcast and you count on them. And I just want you to know I care. Thomas cares. If you guys would listen to our phone conversations, which are hours on end about the future of the company and the development of everything that we're doing, the podcast is, a major piece of the puzzle. And it's something that we will continue to expand upon and build. And we have so many ideas for the podcast as well. But please consider and understand. Well, a lot of it you guys don't even know. A lot of it has to do with, when COVID hit, like a lot of companies, we took a major hit, and we had to, unfortunately, let people go. And in order for me to keep it rolling, I had to pick up the work. And I am one person out here. And right now, the amount of things that are going on behind the scenes that you guys don't know about, there's just a lot. There are some things you do know about. For example, that I have 3 films that I just shot in Harbingers that I'm in post-production on. That alone, one film, is a full-time job for, many people, much less one person. Beyond that, I just got through a renegotiation with Gravitas Ventures, my distributor, who, by the way, they are amazing. They have been so good to me. In regards to 74 Minutes, I do have news. But Gravitas was recently bought by a larger company, and there was a major shakeup over there. And my 5-picture deal, I had fulfilled. So what we wanted to do is go picture by picture, maybe a 2-picture deal moving forward. But for 74 Minutes, we negotiated that deal out. And again, I want to stress how much I absolutely love Gravitas. They are awesome to me. I'm one of the few filmmakers that is fortunate enough to have a killer worldwide distribution deal and I have Final Cut. Like, I literally make my films and hand them in when I'm done, and they go out to the world. That is a dream scenario. It took us 20 years to get there, and had I not had the team around me, we would have never gotten there, and that's just a fact. So for all you young filmmakers that want to make it, it goes back to the same thing. The work, the team, the work, the team. It's got to be quality work, but you got to have a team of people that support you, that know how to, structure these types of deals and to get you there. This is a tough business, but, when you get in a position and you have a situation like ours, when something comes up like a renegotiation, you focus on that. So those negotiations are done. I'm super happy with the deal for 74 minutes. Finally, I can tell you all that it will be coming out worldwide on September 20th. And it'll be everywhere. Everywhere that you can get films, it'll be. And as we get closer to that, there's going to be some podcast appearances that I'm going to be doing. Some pretty heavy ones, which I'm really excited about as well. Literally, that deal got done yesterday. So that's how, in real time, this all is. I do want to say this too before it gets lost in conversation here. 74 minutes. The DVDs can now go out. What I was waiting on is this renegotiation. I absolutely love 74 minutes. The final director's cut of it, which is the version that's coming out, I think is definitely the best version. So for those of you that have ordered that, sit tight. It's coming. And again, September 20th, worldwide release. I am incredibly stoked. Then there's an entirely different project that you guys know nothing about. And it is the type of project that you work 20 years of your life to get into the position that I'm in right now. And it's just not something that I can drop the ball on. It's something that I have to be highly focused on, and it takes up an immense amount of time. The only thing that I can say about it at this point is you guys know for a very long time that I have been going in the direction of directing a feature, not a documentary, like a feature horror film. That's pretty much all I'm going to say right now. And I'm not, doing that because I want to be coy or anything. I've just been in this business a long time. And sometimes things look perfect and they look like nothing could possibly go wrong. And then things come out of left field. Anything can happen. I had a deal to do what could have been Paleface. It was under a different name, but we had a deal literally on the table to go back to Australia, and we even had it worked out where we were going to be able to get on Cockatoo Island again. I'm not going to say how, but we had this deal, with the Travel Channel. And what happened? A ton of fires broke out in Sydney, if you guys remember. Right before COVID, there was massive, massive, massive fires. And when I say we had a deal, it's like, we were literally locking down locations. We were going to be filming part of it here, which Craig was going to be moving here. He was like turning in his stuff for work. And that deal, it fell apart because wildfires. Cockatoo Island was being used for helicopters that were scooping up water. And right after that, we started putting it back together again once the fires were out, and then COVID hit. So when I'm quiet behind the scenes about a project, it's not because I'm playing coy. It's just that until it's a done deal, and I know for a fact that it's a done deal, until it is, I don't like talking about it. I don't even like letting myself get too excited about it, although I am. With this one, if you knew what it was, I am very excited, and I'm even more excited about who I'm working with. But I just don't want to come out and say, hey guys, I'm working with this guy, and I'm working with this guy, and this is the project, and this is what's going on. What I can tell you is that project is taking up a lot of time, and it's time that I'm so blessed to have to focus on. I mean, it's a dream project. It really is. And so between post on 3 films, negotiations on 74 minutes, this project that I just mentioned, I mean, those are just a handful of things that I've been working on. And the podcast doesn't yet, pay the bills. It's not, it's been growing. The money's been growing every single month, but, we're talking about hundreds of dollars, not like, tens of thousands. And I know it'll eventually get to there. And you guys are doing amazing. The numbers grow every time. We just clipped 13,000, or almost at 13,100, which is crazy. That's like double the numbers than when we started. And I've done no ads, no buys, no advertising. It's 100% you guys and word of mouth, which is mind-blowing, because you can see the growth. It's exponential, right? The more subscribers you get, the faster the growth is. So it's something that I love. I just want you guys to know I love the podcast. I would give anything if my job was just every day to just do a podcast. I love sharing stories. I love sharing little bits of, I guess, wisdom, you could call it, if I've gained from experiences. I know I've been very blessed to have a life filled with experiences that are rare, and I love sharing those stories. I love answering your questions. I love reading your feedback. I love the Q&A episodes. I love everything about this podcast, and it's not going anywhere. I can promise you that. I just want you all to know that when things happen, and when I kind of like drop off for a few weeks, 99.99% of the time, that's because there are things going on behind the scenes that I have to take care of, that I have to address, or I'm simply working on the projects that pay the bills, and the films pay the bills. I am a filmmaker. That is what I am. When people ask me, what is your profession? To me, your profession is what pays the bills. And I think that's with anybody, right? I mean, am I a musician? Yes. Have I, toured and lived a life as a professional musician before? Yes. When music was paying my bills, I was a musician. When I was on a reality TV show, just as a cast member before I was directing, when that was paying my bills, that's my profession. I was a reality cast member. But above all, the constant throughout everything is that I'm a filmmaker and I'm a director. That's how I keep the lights on. It's a very, very real job, and it takes a ton of time, because it's the kind of profession that never stops, right? Creative elements in your brain, like my mind never shuts off. So I was just at, the other night, I was fortunate enough to take Laura to the Tears for Fears concert. It was sold out at the Forum, 17,500 people. As many of you know, the singer of Tears for Fears, Kurt's my manager of 20 years, and I had an absolute blast there. But even there, in the middle of a concert, I'm thinking about edits to Harbingers back here. It's like my mind never stops on it. It's just an overwhelming job. So don't ever think that I don't appreciate your comments, that I don't appreciate, you guys saying, hey, where's the podcast? What's going on? Like I said, there are a couple of you that sent some pretty nasty emails about, me letting you down, and I am truly sorry if you feel that way. I really mean that. I'm not trying to let anybody down. I'm just one person, and like I said, I just told you guys about 4 major projects that I'm doing, and that's time consuming. But it's like, I have a wife too. I have a puppy. I have like a normal life that I would like to lead as well, and even with us going to the concert, Laura and I were talking, that was the first, I guess, date that we had been on, just her and I, in almost 3 years. Because it's all been, that's kind of misleading, because for 18 months, no one could leave their house in California and nothing was open. But we just haven't, done a lot because we're focused on careers right now. COVID really changed things. And I guess that's the long and short of it, is that, trust me, this podcast matters. Thomas and I talk about it constantly, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, guys? I promise you. And thank you all for the love and the support and the messages. I really, really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Having said that, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. Please go ahead right now. We've gone, initially there was only like 30% of the listeners were actually subscribers, and now it's much higher. It's like 60 or 65%, which is great. So if you haven't right now, just take the time to click the old subscribe button and then click on that notifications bell so you get a message every time I do upload a new episode. That would be really cool. And for those of you that haven't visited yet, visit our Patreon. Check it out. There's just tons of really cool stuff. Unreleased videos, photos, music. You guys are always the first to see things like the cover artwork for Harbingers. The teaser trailer that is coming out for Harbingers very soon is going to debut first on the Patreon page as well. And as I've said before, the best thing about it, I think, is that you can determine your level of support, whether it's $1, $2, $10, $50, whatever you want to do. If you enjoyed this podcast and you think it's worth your money and it's worth your support, and you want to help me build it to the point that we can bring on an editor to do all the editing, I would greatly appreciate it. If you're not in a position to support in that fashion, that's totally cool. I get it. This podcast will always be free, always. And you can help us out just by spreading the word, telling people about it, and bringing people over to the site. And of course, by commenting, by subscribing. And also, guys, click the thumbs up button if you enjoy the podcast. I mean, these are like all the cheesy things that all like YouTubers say, but it really does affect the algorithm and how many people see and listen to the podcast. And it also affects how much you make, like, per 1,000 views, like all of that stuff. So it's a quick, simple, and easy and effective way to support me and the podcast. Just click that thumbs up and leave me a comment for sure. Having said that, let's get into it, guys. There has been a lot going on. I wanted to know if you guys all saw what I saw, which is that during the Congressional hearing on UFOs, the first piece of video that they showed was the Omaha video, which I said right away. I said, this footage, go back and listen to my podcast. If you guys remember, I said, this footage is not a UFO. There's nothing about this that seems real or authentic. The triangles had what appeared to be flashing FAA lights on it. I didn't believe they were actually triangles because there were ghost images there. And then I saw the video of Corridor, who explained it even better. The ghost images are bokehs, which is the actual shape of the shutter of the camera that you're using. When it's out of focus, everything will appear the shape of the shutter. That's called a bokeh. And that's exactly what it was. And in the Congressional hearing, they pointed out right away and say, yeah, we figured out what this is. I also thought it was ridiculous that they're supposed to be on like the most advanced, like a military submarine. The USS Omaha read about it. It's incredible. And they're whipping out cell phones and they're filming like tactical screens and stuff, which all that shit is top secret. And the reason I brought this all up is because Corbell, who I've been suspicious of for a long time, was peddling this as real footage. And I know, because he is an incredible DP, I know that he knows that. He knows that that's a bokeh. There's no way he doesn't know it. I didn't know the terminology of it because I'm not a director of photography, but I knew what it was when I saw it. And what's really interesting is since then, I have not seen Corbell address this. I've seen him on several additional newscasts where they're showing that footage as he's talking about UFOs and the UFO footage and the UFO phenomena. And not once have I seen him say, oh, hey, by the way, Channel 7 or Channel 5 or Fox or whoever. I've yet to see him go, hey, just so you know, that Omaha footage, yeah, we figured that out. That's not, there's no reason to believe that that's an actual UFO. There's no reason to believe that. Like, we know what it is. In which they pretty much said in Congress that, look, it's drones. It's drones that were just, circling around the Omaha, probably ours, that they were testing, but they were unmanned drones. And again, Corbell, why aren't you saying that? Why aren't you coming forward and saying, this footage isn't authentic? And I peddled it as though it was. And look, there was one guy who left a comment going, oh, you just, hate Jeremy because he's a filmmaker and you're jealous of, his stuff. First off, I've already said I think Jeremy's a great filmmaker. A great filmmaker. Trust me, I'm not jealous of anything he does. I very much enjoy my films and my style is leagues different than his. It's not even comparable. What we do is totally different. Comparing his films to mine is like comparing apples to Volkswagens, man. It doesn't make any sense. This has nothing to do with the fact that he's a filmmaker, which I've said many times. I think he's a very good filmmaker. What I questioned is, why is it that Jeremy Corbell suddenly is the guy that every time there's a piece of leaked, footage from the government, it just magically comes through him? And in the beginning, he was literally out there saying, hey, there's no threat here. There's no reason to believe that this technology is a threat. There's no reason to believe that aliens are a threat. They haven't done anything yet to, make us believe that they would destroy us, something like that. And now, all of a sudden, the second it becomes, a narrative that the government is pushing that it's a threat, suddenly Jeremy is pushing that this is a threat. Okay? And I'm going to come back to this later. But there's every reason to believe that he actually works for the government. And I think he just took the spot of Tom DeLonge. I think, I've said this in the last podcast, I think when they initially brought DeLonge in, they had a guy who had an ego so big that he believed that his own charm and charisma just so happened to get him, at a table sitting with all these guys from Raytheon and from Skunk Works and the Hal Putoffs and the Chris Mellons, and Tom DeLonge really believed that it was just because of his passion and his fascination and all this stuff, when it was very clear that, they were a group of people that were more than likely ordered by the government to go find, a mouthpiece. Because, when you say aliens could be real, there's technology that we don't understand that's invading our airspace, and it's also, we've tracked it over our nuclear silos. There's a big difference between having Tom DeLonge, Mr. Dick and Fart joke, Blink 182 guy saying it. There's a big difference between having him say it or like some total, badass military general saying it. If Tom DeLonge says, man, there's crazy technology that we don't understand that's been, seen down by an Air Force base in San Diego, that's very different, right? Than a general saying, hey, we have unconfirmed bogeys in our, So I think they did that, and Tom DeLonge stated made all kinds of crazy claims, and everyone just kind of ho-hum laughed it off, and no one really, I think it backfired in the sense that they didn't want anybody to get scared, but I think they wanted the public to take him serious, though. And people didn't really take DeLonge serious. And part of that was his tragedy of an appearance on, it was a tragic appearance on Rogan with him. DeLonge was the entire time, if you haven't seen that Rogan-DeLonge interview, you got to see that. Because the entire time, and it was so annoying, Tom DeLonge just kept doing this, oh, I can't talk about that. Every time Rogan would ask DeLong a question, it would be, well, let's talk. I can't talk about that. And he would like change the subject, and it got so annoying. He just seemed crazy. And I don't think he's crazy at all. I think he was just overwhelmed. But it became obvious that he was not the right guy. He's the guy who they thought in the beginning was going to be the right guy, but he wasn't the right guy. And they initially switched over to Luis Elizondo. If you watched the TV show with Tom DeLonge and that whole team, you can see that DeLonge is on that show, but they have edited around him and cut him down to almost nothing. And then all of a sudden, the new kind of voice for that entire To the Stars team and movement was suddenly Luis Elizondo, which I did not believe him from the jump. And I'll tell you why. Here's the first piece of footage that I ever saw of him, and you tell me if this looks like a rehearsed actor. Check this out.
My name is Lou Elizondo. For nearly the last decade, I ran a sensitive aerospace threat identification program focusing on unidentified aerial technologies. It was in this position I learned that the phenomena is indeed real. I learned that the phenomena is indeed real. I learned that the phenomena is indeed real.
I mean, come on. Does anybody at all think that that was like natural, off-the-cuff conversation? I mean, this guy's acting. And I've just seen him in so many interviews where he is clearly acting. And I later found out, like much of you did, from Dr. Greer's interviews, that oddly enough, what Elizondo was, when he was in the military, he was a disinformation agent. That's what he did. He basically told lies. That's what he did. And, it just seems like he's continuing to do that job. But I saw something even more recent that you should all watch. I will put the link in the description box below. And this blew my mind. Now, I'm going to just give you the shortest version of this possible because it's much longer when you watch this video of the New York Post, which again, I'll put the link in the description. Essentially, a lot of truths have come out about Elizondo. And like I said, I was one of the first guys to say that dude is not on the frickin' level. And once we can prove that, anybody he's associated with, I think you have to question him, right? You have to. But here's the deal. When the news came out and supposedly Elizondo was saying, I run AATIP. And the New York Times reported that AATIP got like $22 million from Harry Reid to investigate, UFOs. Well, if you remember, if you saw it or not, when Bob Lazar and our friend Jeremy Corbell went on the Rogan show, they mentioned that they got it wrong. They only talked about it there and maybe one other interview that I saw where they said, no, the $22 million went to a program called OSAP, not AATIP. And what OSAP did is it investigated that crazy-ass Skinwalker ranch. And I should say crazy-ass because I don't mean that in a paranormal way. In my opinion, guys, I just think the Skinwalker Ranch is like the most overhyped, overblown thing I've ever heard of. Like, you hear nothing but the craziest tales. But there's not an ounce of credible evidence that has come out of that place. And we now know that $22 million was spent investigating that ranch. $22 million was given to Bob Bigelow to put together a team of people to investigate the Skinwalker Ranch. And that program was called OSAP, okay? Now, a lot of people have asked Elizondo, were you involved with OSAP? And he has tweeted over and over again, I had nothing to do with OSAP. And he kept claiming I was the director of AATIP. And then when the government came forward and said, initially, look, Elizondo had nothing to do with AATIP. He had no role in AATIP, nothing. Elizondo fired back and was like, that's not true. And if I gotta, you know, get loud and sue people and start saying some things that I know, then the truth's going to come out. You know, the truth's going to come out. Now, here's the weird thing about OSAP. And I'll come back to Elizondo in a second. Now, remember, again, this is all in this New York Post story that I'm going to link in the description box below. It is a fantastic piece of journalism. Now, OSAP, when that money went to Bigelow, UFOs was like one tiny little thing that they were investigating. They were investigating crazy shit, like werewolves. I'm not kidding, guys. Like, this is all documented. Werewolves, crazy animals that seem like 5 different animals are combined and put together. Really weird stuff. Ghosts, the paranormal, vortexes, like all this really, really, really out there stuff, right? And after 1 year, all it took is 1 year, and these guys came back and they're like, yeah, we've been investigating this. Everybody at OSAP, right? Bob Bigelow's team. Everybody in OSAP was like, yeah, you know, we're looking for this werewolf, but we haven't found him. But we did get some weird readings over here, and we heard that there's some, you know, chairs and tables that float, and we haven't, you know, recorded it yet. And we heard that there was this dog that was pancaked, and you know, we found the corpse, but we didn't see him get pancaked. And the government was like, yo, shut this shit down. And they pulled the plug on it. And they were like, there's nothing here that you're doing that can be deemed of any importance to the advancement of anything that our government would need. And that's when they were investigating Skinwalker, right? Which, again, Skinwalker is like every type of phenomenon known to man is reportedly experienced there, but yet nobody has any real evidence from that place that is shocking or could just blow you away, right? The best that I've seen is that there's different, you know, there's bizarre energy readings and stuff out there. But listen, there's, you know, these are mountainous areas. There's, you know, ley lines. There's all kinds of stuff that creates bizarre energy readings. That doesn't mean anything bizarre is going on as far as like werewolves or goblins or, I mean, they were looking for gnomes out there, like all kinds. Bob Bigelow was probably like, you gave me $22 million to do this shit? Party time. Now, the reason, you know, how Putoff and Elizondo and Mellon, the reason all those guys went with the AATIP story is because AATIP was supposedly a branch of the government that investigated UAPs. And they thought if they came forward with the public and said, we were out there hunting werewolves and, you know, different types of bizarre animals that no one's ever heard of before, and we were, you know, hunting ghosts and gnomes and, you know, portals, and, you know, we're trying to figure out how dogs are getting flattened and all this stuff, that the belief was that the public would not take any of those guys seriously. And they're right. They're absolutely right. The public would have been like, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is like, you know, you got $22 million of taxpayers' money to just do like, you know, the most fringe type of investigations possible. So they said, you know, with the LA Times, they basically lied. And they basically went with the AATIP story. But how they figured this out, and the New York Post, that's the story that's linked in the box below, what's really interesting, is they started realizing that every time AATIP came up, when they would say the full name of it, and it's like, you know, advanced threat, blah, 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 whatever the acronym is that makes up AATIP, people were getting it wrong. Like, it was being called different things in different publications, and none of Chris Mellon's guys or Elizondo or Putoff or anything, they weren't correcting anybody. They were just like, as long as it sounds, you know, like AATIP, if it was anything close that made that acronym, they were fine with it. So there was a couple reporters, including this one for the New York Times or the New York Post, was like, there's just something way off here. Like, if you say the name wrong, as the New York Times did, that's an incorrect piece of information. Like, there's a reason why there's fact checkers, because those things matter when it comes to telling the truth. If you don't even know the real name of what the institution is that you're investigating, what else don't you know, right? Begs that question. So, as it turns out, and this is the truth, and again, it's very detailed in how they confirmed all this, and you could watch it with the link in the description box, how the New York Post, determined all this, about OSAP and the AATIP, is that AATIP, it was not an actual, branch. It was Luis Elizondo on his own time as an activity. There's legal documents where even he is stating to a superior that he's bitching at, when they came out and said, yeah, no, he had no involvement in this program. Basically they went back to him and said, look, dude, it was no program. It was you, making phone calls when you hear about stuff, and and he's like, whether it was an activity or a program, I was the director of it. So it was not funded, and that's very well demonstrated. No money went into it. There was no staff. There was no group of people. It was Elizondo saying, I am the director of AATIP. And with literally nobody below him. It's just him in his free time. And he just called it AATIP because when they came forward to the public, they needed something to call it that wasn't OSAP, because they would look ridiculous. So it just shows you that this Elizondo is a complete fraud. He's a complete fraud. And what's even really, really bizarre is after him publicly stating over and over again that he's tweeted this too. Literally one of his tweets that you'll see says, for the record, let me make this clear. I had absolutely zero involvement in the OSAP program. I was the director of AATIP. Well, as it turns out, and you'll see, he was the freaking director of OSAP. There were a couple of directors of the program. He was one of them. So listen, anything out this guy's mouth, anything out of Elizondo's mouth is absolute bullshit. And to me, I just got to stop and look at his entire crew. All those guys, Put Off, and I like Hal Put Off too. And he's my type of scientist. I mean, yeah, he's done some crazy stuff and he's a fringe guy, but he seems to have the right energy, man. I mean, he really does. I think he's in it just for the science of it all. But guys like, Chris Mellon that have worked in intelligence, none of it is on the level. And they are absolutely towing this line right now that the UAPs are a major threat. And this is being pushed hard, man. Every time I see them in interviews, it's nothing like right now. I could take you 2 years ago and listen to these same guys giving interviews, and it's just fascination and excitement. And now it's all fear. It's all fear. They're just driving fear home, okay? Now, there's a reason for this, and this is when I want to switch gears again, and I'm going to come back to Corbell. I want to switch gears again, and let's talk a little bit about Skyfall. Now, as many of you know, Skyfall's predictions all point towards one thing. He says that there's going to be a fake alien invasion, and the reason that there is going to be a fake alien invasion is because it will condition the world to come together and want to fight what he says will be a real extraterrestrial invasion, or at least contact from extraterrestrials, right? And he says the energy elite, that is what he refers to as the powers that be that run the fossil fuel industry and the industrial military complex, do not want to give up their control. And that is exactly what would happen if there was, in fact, a zero-point energy and new technologies that took away, the need to pay for energy. There's so many reasons why that would change things on a massive, massive scale. And listen, we've seen all kinds of warnings about the industrial military complex. We've seen presidents warn us. I mean, is there anybody that is more qualified to tell us to beware of the industrial military complex than Eisenhower, for Christ's sakes? I mean, this guy knows the military like the back of his hand, right? And he's telling us, beware, beware, beware. Now, again, Skyfall says this is coming. This is going to happen. There will be a fake alien invasion that is used to unite us and condition us so that we will want to go to war with the extraterrestrials when they actually invade or actually make contact. The industrial military complex and the energy elite will treat that contact like an invasion because they want us to fear them with our lives. And we're seeing that going on right now, especially with Corbell, Chris Mellon. Those guys are just peddling that shit like crazy. Although since the dawn of time, we don't have any kind of global threat on record or any large population that's been threatened on record of an extraterrestrial presence. But what we do have on record is UFOs / UAPs, hovering over missile silos and shutting them down. We have them shutting down missiles in mid-air. We do have that. We know that they didn't want those launched. When we really started seeing the presence of these things, some of the highest, reports from the public occurred at the same time that we were testing nuclear missiles or nuclear warheads. And by the way, the U.S. alone has let off 3,000 nukes on this planet and in our upper atmosphere. We were doing that, Project Starfish. We were blowing up the atmosphere with nukes, right? And then, suddenly, UFOs are everywhere, especially around these military sites. Now, all of that, makes sense, but we don't have any, when I say it makes sense from a peace standpoint, right? But we don't have anything of record where we can go, oh, these UFOs showed up and, they killed 100,000 people, or they threatened a group of people. We have the Zimbabwe story where the UFOs showed up and all the little kids at the school came out, and basically these, aliens told them telepathically that they've got to take care of their planet, that they got to treat the world better. Now, there's more to it than that. And, when I recite, some of these, UFO stories, remember, guys, I'm not a ufologist. I'm not Dr. Greer. I'm not Skyfall. I don't know the crazy details of everything, but I know the general details of things. And to my knowledge, there's nothing on record in which UFOs have presented a global threat to us. But again, that's what's being pitched right now. So let's step back a little bit and let's talk about Skyfall as a whole. When he first started making all these predictions to me, I was the one who said, well, hey, listen, I'm going to post these. If you've got the cojones to basically tell me that I need to listen to you because all this is going to happen, then hey, I'll put it on my Facebook page and I'll talk about it in interviews and during podcasts, and let's see if your predictions come true. Now, every single thing to date that he's predicted has come to pass except for two things, and we'll talk about two of those things later. Hey, which, by the way, when I first started posting his predictions, because every now and then I see a text from someone that's like, see, Skyfall was wrong about, these two things, and that just means he's full of shit. And actually, let's just talk about it. The two things that Skyfall was wrong about. And just so you guys know, the same person that left us kind of like a shitty comment to me that was like, Skyfall is wrong, so you can't trust a thing he says. This is the same guy that has claimed on multiple comment boards that I haven't addressed what Skyfall has gotten wrong, which I have. I have in podcasts and online, so I don't know why he's saying that. So, dude who's writing this comment, I'm going to address it again right now. the two things that Skyfall got wrong. The first one is that he said that Trump was going to win a second term. And listen, this isn't a political show, so I'm not going to debate over, Trump as far as should he be president, shouldn't he be. But technically speaking, Trump still could win a second term. And there's some people that believe he did win a second term. So, who knows? But when I messaged Skyfall about it, what he said is that, and I'll just kind of, I guess, the short version of it is, there's a much longer version, but the short version of it is basically that when the New World Order came to form, Trump was initially pleased with what his position would be, as there would be one global leader, but then there would be leaders that basically, are the governors or oversee areas, and that Trump was going to oversee Canada, North America, and South America, Mexico, South America, all that stuff. And that the one leader that was going to be in charge, supposedly, was Putin. And as time went on, basically what Skyfall said he heard is that Trump became more and more unmanageable and wanted to change things, and ultimately decided that he did not want, to work below Putin, that he wanted to be kind of the man in this global New World Order empire. Now, if you think this New World Order thing is a joke, listen, this has been spoken about by many presidents. Famously, George Bush Sr., Papa Bush, he used to talk about it all the time. There's footage of him talking about in this New World Order that we're building. I mean, this isn't something new. There's been many presidents, there's been politicians, people have been talking about this New World Order for a very, very long time. The idea that, everybody will basically be Earthlings and not Americans or, Europeans or Mexicans, that we would just become, Earthlings, that we become members of the human race and we would come together. This is not anything new. This has been around for a long time. And if you go back historically, what has every major, leader, tried to accomplish since the dawn of time? Whether you're talking about, Alexander the Great, to Hitler, to Caesar, to, Genghis Khan. I mean, you name it. Like, controlling the world under one government has been a major, major thing that world leaders have attempted to accomplish since the dawn of time. Again, not a new concept. Right after the 3 videos were released from the government, or so we're told, Tom DeLonge was tweeting, literally calling that quickly. Tom DeLonge put out a tweet saying, "Hey, this is the perfect time for us to come together as Earthlings and embrace our brothers and sisters from other countries." And he made this argument about how if we were all together under one government, we would only need one military, and that's to fight any external threats through space. And think how much money we would save if we only had one military, and we could spend all that money that we spend on the military, we can put it into schools and into housing, and everybody immediately was like, DeLonge, you're on fucking crack, man. Like, what are you talking about? Again, you'd have to tear our Constitution up. And, how would that work? How would that work? Like, one governing system, right? So, how would that work with religion, right? I mean, like, how does the Nation of Islam conform to Christianity or vice versa? Or are we all polygamists? How about religions that have polygamy? Do we all get to do that? I mean, like, this would never, ever, ever work. Again, my partner, Thomas, who's one of the smartest guys I've ever known, once said to me when we were talking about different governments, he said, listen, he was talking about foreign countries and stuff, and it's a great comment. He said to me, the people of any given country, they get the government they choose. And if you really think about that, I mean, if you look at Iraq, a lot of people despise Saddam Hussein because he was a psychopath and his sons were true evil. You want to talk about an argument for possession being real, like really read up about his kids. I mean, they're some really sick, perverted fucks, man. But there was a certain amount of order that was kept in Iraq, and there are many, many people in is it Iraq or Iraq? I always hear it pronounced differently. But there were many people that were like, hey, before all this happened, we had a decent life. We can work for a good wage. Things were okay. Yeah, we couldn't speak out against our leader, but, there's a lot of countries that you can't do that in. But you go ask people, how is it today? How is it today over there? And they'll tell you it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. So it kind of goes back to that system to some degree was working for them a lot better than what is going on right now. And this only just goes to show you that different types of people with different, political, spiritual, religious beliefs do well in certain governments and certain scenarios, and they do really bad in other ones. So how could there be one world government and then just ask everybody to live under what rules, under what policies, under what laws? Is the Second Amendment going to be guaranteed for everybody if we're under one world government? You know what I mean? Like this is just so, to me it seems so unrealistic, but we've seen it throughout time. This New World Order, this one world government, this thing has been a real thing. And so that was what was supposedly Trump had agreed to this initial foundation of ideas with the New World Order. And according to Skyfall, what he said he heard is that Trump became unmanageable, so they chose to go a different direction. Okay, they chose to go a different direction. That's what he said. If this is all real, not a crazy thought. I don't think it's a crazy thought at all. But we'll have to wait and see. And the other thing that he got wrong, at least to this point, and I've messaged him about this, and I've not heard back yet, but I'm very interested to hear what he has to say, is he said that there would be another war that would start. He said it would be in the Middle East. And he said that that America would be drawn into it. Slowly but surely they would be drawn into it. And that during that war, as it escalates, during that war, that is when we would see the fake alien invasion. Now, many people have asked me in the comments and in the quotes the question that I asked Skyfall, which is, was the location of this just moved to the Ukraine? Is that what's going on right now? Because we're seeing the U.S. slowly but surely being pulled into this. We're seeing that Putin and Russia, a world power, are involved. This could be a world war that breaks out between us and them. They're a nuclear powerhouse, that's for sure. We're also hearing now that Putin has cancer, supposedly. That alone could have altered the scenario that Skyfall is predicting. So for the guy that says that I have not addressed these things, I just addressed them again. Also, I just want to point this out. When Skyfall first started making predictions, I even said to Justin, if this guy is 60% right, I'll be blown away. Because if you asked me to predict what I was doing next week, if I was 50% right, I would be blown away. I mean, if I just sit down right now and make 20 predictions of things that I would do next week, I would probably get half of them right, because things change, right? Scenarios change, like life changes. Let's also not forget that if there is, in fact, this global cabal of leaders from the energy elite and the industrial military complex, and they want to create this, one world order, or one world government, this new world order, there's going to be opposition to it, right? That's a huge undertaking. It's not like it's three people are sitting around and they push the button and things just happen. There's going to be a ton of people involved, and they'll be at a level that we don't know about. But I can guarantee you there would also be people that, had differing ideas, and they would be going back and forth. Like anything in life, whenever someone has a great idea and you're the first one through the door, you're going to get bloody because people don't like that idea. So, there's a reason, I think, why we haven't seen a one world government or a new world order yet, is because it would be incredibly difficult to pull off. But I do think it's very, very peculiar that, people like Werner von Braun, a Nazi and the last, world leader that came very, very close to, or the last leader of Germany that came very, very close to having a one world government. This guy on his deathbed warned of this. He literally warned of this. He talked about, how there would be a war on drugs, which is a faceless enemy. Then there would be a war on terror, which is, again, a faceless enemy. And then the next step would be, or the final step would be, the fake alien invasion. So if these are crazy thoughts, why have they been echoed so many times? And the person they were most echoed by, and most famously echoed by, was Ronald Reagan, right? When he stood, right there, and this is at the United Nations, he said, "I often think, what would happen if we were suddenly threatened by some alien race? How small our differences would be and how soon we would come together." And multiple presidents have echoed this. Bill Clinton has echoed this. I think even Obama a couple times during interviews has said this. But that was interesting to me because when I look at Skyfall and the fact that he's been accurate on like 97% of his predictions, and guys, he was accurate at a time where it was crazy, like way, way, way. You gotta think when this started. When I first posted his predictions, he was predicting things like, in the next 3 months, you're going to see a massive escalation in mainstream stories about, UFO sightings from the government. You're going to see a lot of it coming from the Navy. There's going to be new naval procedures for reporting, like crazy stuff that he was nailing 3, 4, 5, 6 months out. Go back and watch Two-Face the Gray, and go back and visit my Facebook page and see how accurate he was with things. It's been crazy. And, so in my mind, the whole time, what I kept thinking to myself is that, look, I will start getting nervous about this. When I see the mainstream media peddling this idea that if there was an alien threat, all our differences would no longer matter and that we should come together and we should just realize that we're the human race. Because that's the message, right? That's the message. That's going to be the tool that gets everybody to kind of band together. And why not? It's a powerful argument, right? Like literally tomorrow, if I woke up and the news is like, hey, look outside your window, look over the ocean. And I look over the ocean and I see these massive ships in the sky. And I don't know if it's, Project Bluebeam or not, right? And then I look on my street and I see little Sir No-Face aliens running around. And I go back to the news and it says, these things are here to destroy us. All right? That's a pretty good fucking argument to say, well, hey, I don't want to be destroyed. And if they are truly an impressively powerful, species that we have a chance in defeating rather than being vaporized, then of course our differences don't matter. If we have to literally fight for our own survival, then yeah, everybody's my brother, everybody's my sister. I view the world like that anyways. I don't need an alien invasion for me to feel like we're all just human. Like, go visit Europe sometime. Go visit, Australia or Ireland or all these places. You realize we have differences, but vastly we're the same. People, they want freedom, they want happiness, they want their family to be safe, they want to raise children in a good environment. These are universals, right? These are universals. So I already look like the world is my brothers and sisters, so I don't need a fake alien invasion to do it. But if I looked out my window and I saw massive ships hovering over the ocean, and I looked on my street and I saw little grays running around with, little laser guns and shit. Like, really process that for a second. Like, really think for a second what that would be like. I mean, talk about earth-shattering. And you turn on the news and you see, the president, like a Biden or something, saying, we know where they came from. They are communicating with us. They have told us we have a deadline to basically, whatever, leave the planet or they're going to exterminate us or whatever, or give them something or what. Like, really, think how terrifying that would be if they were these, evil, creatures that wanted to kill. Not even evil, just basically a species that wanted to take what we have. So that's a good argument, right? I think it's a bullshit argument because, again, UFOs have been reported since the dawn of time, and I'm not talking just by America or World War II. I'm talking hieroglyphics. I'm talking about wall paintings. I'm talking about biblical paintings. Like the UFO. I mean, President has been. I'm talking about Ezekiel and the wheel, man. I'm talking about old school shit. Like, this stuff's been around forever, and that's never been the case. As far as them being a threat. So, if I ever start seeing what I told myself when it came to Skyfall, is that if I ever start seeing the mainstream media pushing this theory and this idea that our differences would just disappear and that we should get on board, if I ever start seeing that, because the mainstream media is the mouthpiece of the government. This is not a new thing. I mean, the CIA, this is real. They quickly realized that people believe what they see on television, right? Television. They believe what they hear. War of the Worlds was a psyop with that, right? War of the Worlds came on the radio and people shit themselves and they thought a real alien invasion was going on. How interesting that's what the War of the Worlds was, is this psyop where people really thought that was happening. So if I ever see that, then I'm going to start getting a little nervous. Well, it turns out, if you've been watching the news over the last couple of weeks, that's exactly what's going on right now.
Right now, we do not, from my understanding, have any coordination between major nations. It is, in fact, a type of secret Cold War.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the ultimate kumbaya moment to bring the world together. If we thought there was something else out there that was truly an existential threat, potentially, it would bring nations together because they'd have no other choice.
So there you go, guys. Is it all happening? Is it all starting to come true? Are we going to be looking at a fake alien invasion coming here as this war in the Ukraine escalates a little bit? I don't know, man, but I every time I want to write Skyfall off or this whole idea, I see enough to just make me go, huh, this is super weird. And to me, it also all goes back to the footage of No Face, man. Listen, I am telling you, that is not human. Whatever we filmed, it's not human, man. So if it's not a ghost and it is a gray, like it appears to be, it's either a real gray or it's like Dr. Greer says, it is a tissue robot hybrid gray that was created. But listen, it's not human. All right? I mean, it's not. And that can be, easily proven, through Sir No Face. Nobody, locked a baby in a building till, 4 a.m. and told him not to make a sound and don't piss, don't cry, don't do anything, and then step out of a wall to be filmed. We can prove that that's not a human being on film. Craig did not film. So what's all this about, man? And there's other stuff I wish I can tell you that's going to be in paleface. But I just have a lot of reason right now to I'm just starting to feel like, man, we could be seeing something heavy real soon. This is all leading somewhere, guys. All this UFO stuff we're seeing, the government stuff, the Congressional thing, it's definitely, this has a destination. This isn't an accident. Corbell, he just appears on the scene out of nowhere. I'm a paranormal filmmaker. I'm in the paranormal community. I'm not in the world of ufology, but I know enough people in it. And, just out of the blue, this just Corbell shows up with his, his Skinwalker Ranch movie. Think about that, before the Bob Lazar film, the film that Corbell made is on the Skinwalker Ranch. So he clearly knows about OSAP and Bob Bigelow, and he's clearly involved with all those guys. Luis Elizondo, which we know is a total shill, man. So tell me I'm wrong, Corbell. Tell me I'd love to sit down with you, buddy. No attacking, just straight questions. And the last thing I want to say too, to the Cousins brothers, Third Face and Moon, they left a comment on my last video as well, and he made a comment. It was a very nice comment. He basically said, listen, we try not to show any CGI clips here. We try to keep it real. And he mentioned, something to the effect that we were both filmmakers. To me, it more felt like a nod, like, hey, you're a fellow filmmaker. Why are you pointing this out? To the Cousins brothers, Blake and Brett, I think it is, or Brent and Blake, the Cousins brothers. Again, guys, I know you're in a volume business. I know you got to move a lot of product being, footage of UFOs. It wasn't an attack on you in any way. If you guys would like to talk as well, I would be more than happy to. I have some, I guess, hard questions to ask you, but I'm in no way, shape, or form against anybody. But when I see something that's not real, and I know it's not, I'm not going to say it's real. You know what I mean? That's really all it comes down to. So to the Cousins brothers, no hatred here, man. I'm not an enemy of you guys, or I just want to see the real deal. And when I think it's important to point out when things are fake, and that they are, because that's the only way you can get to a point where you can determine what's real. And I know there's real stuff here. So if you guys want to talk about your new film, you guys hit me up, and I'd be more than happy to talk with you. I'm not an enemy. Same thing with Corbell, man. I'm not an enemy, bro, but there's just some things that just don't add up, and I would love to talk to you. As far as your films go, like I said, guys, this isn't a competition thing. Jeremy's a fantastic filmmaker. You heard it from my mouth. And I hope he makes more films. I'd love to see him. So I am just really freaked out by a lot of the stuff that's going on. It seems like it's leading towards potentially this fake alien invasion. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think? What do you think about the footage you saw, the whole scenario, everything that's going on? Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I am back. I would do my best to keep them coming as fast as I can. And once again, thanks for all the love and support. I really appreciate it. Lastly, again, if you haven't visited our Patreon, please do. Check it out. If you can help, that would be great. And to everybody else, just thanks for listening. Thanks for spreading the word. Please subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Much love, everybody. And I will be back with more very, very soon. I promise you all. All the best.